Hey friends. Well, I've had a day or so where some stuff's been showing up that I'm wrestling with a little bit. Um, I have this injury to my wrist, which happened a month and a half ago at this point. And it doesn't cause me tremendous pain in a normal day, but what it does, and it's very present in my mind, is it creates a sense of a weakness here and a vulnerability. There's a sense of I don't have full use of my right hand. And that's kind of scary. And what I have, I knew right from the beginning, right kind of as it happened, I knew that this was gonna mark a new sort of phase in my life, and I think I correctly sensed that this was some kind of higher provocation. It wasn't simply my body having an injury. There's a deeper purpose to it. I mean, purpose might be the wrong word, but there's something that, but maybe not. Maybe it's the right word. Maybe it felt like it was moving me in the direction of growth, which, FYI, is my experience of all injury ever. Especially once I started to study Qigong really deeply, I started to notice that when injuries would happen to me, first of all, I had the tools to kind of work with them and not be so much in resistance to them. So that meant that I could dissolve them and kind of integrate them, heal them better and faster. But I also noticed that after the injury was healed, there was a new kind of strength in my body or in my mind or both. And I started to realize, injury is actually helping me. Injury isn't an impediment. I mean, it is a temporary impediment, for sure, but it's ultimately a kind of higher healing. And so, but as this injury happened, that's my template. That's the way I really do see injuries. But this one was big in a way. I mean, it wasn't an injury that was like horribly painful or terribly debilitating, but it takes me out of a sense of being able to fully play the instrument, the piano, and it even kind of compromises my ability to be physical. I don't feel like I can do athletic things in the same way that I could before. I have to be more careful, and I may get back there. I suspect, I very much hope I will, but I also suspect I will. But in the meantime, there's a kind of like being knocked back on my heels. And what I identified this morning was that this injury is almost like a sniper shot at the identities that I think are some of my favorites to hide behind. In other words, in addition to being someone who loves music and has played music all their lives and like truly thrives and truly just, loves music, I've also used music, I think, as a way of blocking away, deflecting even deeper aspects of my identity that I have been on some level, subconsciously or unconsciously, longing to grow into. But music is so magnificent, and the joy of studying music deeply and playing music is so powerful that it's been easy for me to kind of perform my hiding game, hiding behind it as an identity, or even as a primary thing I'm invested in. And it's been easy for me to convince myself that that's real, that somehow really is where I want to be, or that's really my deeper truth, when it's actually not. Well, enter the perfect injury to prevent me from doing that. And then there's also the side of, there's also the kind of what I spoke about a moment ago, the athletic side, like the ability to be physical and the ability to keep my body in good shape, and which is another thing. It's like so unassailable as a motivator in life, but it's also something that ultimately, if we're talking about true, like, enlightenment or true spiritual expansion, it's not that it's not important. In fact, it's very important. But it's also something that ultimately is temporary. It's not forever. And so acknowledging that our body is going to deteriorate, that's a tough lesson to accept as a human being. It's not a tough lesson for spirit to accept, but it's a tough lesson for the human ego to accept. And so enter an injury that makes it very difficult for me to pursue that kind of like sense of well-being or whatnot in the same way that I always do. Now, again, I'm not saying that that's over, that I won't be able to do that ever again. To some degree, I am still able to now, and I suspect that that's going to get better. But there's a kernel of realization in here. When I was raw vegan for about 2 years, not quite 2 years, and I may have spoken about this a little bit when we were doing our cleanse a couple weeks ago, month and a half ago. I noticed that the rhetoric around that level of health consciousness, food consciousness, the life-giving properties of food, being really aware of what we were taking in and how something was enriching our system and enlivening our system, etc. There was a sense, for all of the amazing kind of healthy benefit of that, I got the sense sometimes that in that world, in the culture of like hyper health consciousness, there was an element of pretending or wishing or thinking that we were actually heading off death, like that we were somehow indefinitely postponing or outrunning death. And it's like, how are you going to criticize someone for wanting to eat healthy food, right? That's unassailable. But the thing is, if the motivation underneath that is a kind of avoidance of the reality of where this human life is going, then the practice of something that actually on some level is extremely beautiful and beneficial and healthy can tilt into a kind of psychological avoidance. And I noticed elements of this in myself, and I noticed elements of this in the reading, the kind of like undertone of the rhetoric that I was reading in the books where I was studying this stuff, and in the people that I've met in that community. So again, all that takes me back to a place where it's like, okay, well, something took me out of commission in some ways. It took certain things in my life and said, not right now. Not right now, Robin. You got to put these down. You're overinvested in things that feel that are not the deep stuff. Because the deep stuff always happens in a place of recognition of death, recognition of life, a total kind of like honest look at what we're doing with our time, what I'm doing with my time on this planet. And if I'm distracted from, I think my purpose is way too simplistic of a way of thinking about it. But if I'm distracted from growth in that deeper direction, the universe has got ways of, if not getting you on track, at least cutting off some of the pathways not to go down anymore. So, but I'll admit, it's a wrestling match. It really does blow me back. It really does take me kind of to a place where I'm like, I'm a little bit reeling from it when I really kind of accept it. I can't help but also kind of see it in the way that I'm describing here and be extremely grateful and extremely kind of awed by just the universe's ability to be so to communicate so elegantly. But there is some pain, there is some fear, and I can't pretend that that's not there. So, I have to kind of sit with that. And I think it's helpful for me to even just do this post and talk about it, because it's like sometimes the confusion of what am I supposed, okay, so I've had a couple of these avenues cut off that would take my excess energy, that would take my energy to make me feel like, okay, I had a good day, I had a good week, I'm on track, right? It's taken away some of the kind of illusory ways that I create that feeling for myself. It really does leave me stunned with like, okay, well then what is the way? What are the ways? What are the right ways? And I don't mean the right. There's only like right ways or wrong ways. I'm just saying I know that there are avenues of exploration that are meant that are calling to me on a deep level. But my own practice of distraction means that I actually really do have to kind of stop before I can hear them. And that's a whole discipline in itself, to really receive what this injury is giving me, really, truly, instead of craving the thing that I'm lacking now, instead of being kind of looking for that feeling in another short-term way, settling and like seeing where I'm really at. That's the job. That's clearly the job. That's clearly the message that the universe is trying to get me to listen to. So that's where I'm at. A lot coming through these days. Thanks for watching. I appreciate you. Have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow.